This week's best MMA bets, we're talking UFC Vegas 102. I'm going to give you guys my lock of the week, most confident picks. We'll talk favorite underdogs, Degen Props of the night, and then finish it out with the parlays. So make sure you guys smash the like button. If you're new to the channel, subscribe, turn the post notifications on, and make sure you share the video too. Let's talk about last week. So as far as the full card predictions for me and the underdog calls, absolutely spectacular. The unfortunate call of the night is when I wanted to try and go savage value lock and took a fat L picking against Weili Zhang. It's a shame that I did that looking at it in hindsight, but like they say, hindsight 2020, I had an overinflated view of Suarez wrestling, thinking maybe it was like patchy mixes or a female Khabibs. Unfortunately, not the case. But the underdog card calls were great. The undercard calls were even better. Swept the undercard as far as predictions went, 6-0 on that. I was pretty hype, and I hit it on 3 very unpopular dogs. So excited about the predictions and seeing my success rate over the past few weeks with these underdog calls. I said to myself, why am I not doing a savage dog lock? That's the right way to do it. I have my most confident pick section where you get all my favorites that are locks. Let's go savage dog lock. So that is what I'm going to do today. We're jumping right into it. Without further ado, the lock of the week. Nazim Sadykhov, savage dog lock for UFC Vegas 102. I think it's a mix of the odds being too good to pass up as well as them being confusing. Nazim Sadykhov is pretty talented, and Ismail Bonfim is a bit of an overrated prospect. I was surprised to see Bonfim's minus 205. I don't think he deserves that line. Sadykhov plus 170. Nazim Sadykhov and Ismail Bonfim is much more of a pick'ems fight than the odds will have you believe. As far as the striking skill set, Sadykhov has a tricky stand-up game. He's got a bit of power in his hands. He's definitely pretty explosive. Now, I would say probably the side of Bonfim is ever so slightly more technical, but he likes to throw some decent kicks, especially down to the calf. Has a solid jab, but not much power. And he's fighting a southpaw in Sadykhov here, which has me thinking, I think this southpaw could give Bonfim a bit of trouble in some awkward combinations. And on the ground, Sadykhov is very capable, and Bonfim has 4 losses by submission. All of his losses, sub-losses. You have to consider him sus on the ground. And when you go back and rewatch the Benoit Saint-Denis fight, before you just glaze the side of BSD and say, well, he got ran over by a top 15 guy who was supposed to beat Poirier. Nah, he got knocked out. You look at it and say, damn, Bonfim gave up. He quit. Bonfim quit. He had his back taken. He did not fight the hands, and he got strangled. That was the quitter's way out. Okay? He gave up. He could have fought the hands. He didn't. I don't care how tight Benoit Saint-Denis squeezes. I'm almost slurring his name. He could have reached back and fought for his damn life. He didn't. Quick tap. Call it a wrap. I see a fragility to his mentality. This is Ismail Bonfim, not his brother Gabriel Bonfim, who's a very promising prospect. Ismail Bonfim seems destined to the mid-tier in the UFC lightweight division. I am not overly impressed. Yes, he has a nice flying knee knockout at Terrence McKinney, but at this rate, a lot of people got highlight reels over Terrence McKinney, and Sadykhov also a win over McKinney. Sadykhov's grappling skill set is there as an X factor to the matchup. With a quality stand-up game and knockout power, I think he can look good. I feel as though Sadykhov might be getting overlooked a bit because the draw against Slava clause, but I want to give you guys a reminder. He nearly had Slava out of there, and Slava, at the time that Sadykhov fought him, I think was more primed. Slava's taken a lot of damage, specifically against Sadykhov, and then since then, I think Sadykhov's game is actually relatively clean. I want to say that he's one of the more underrated prospects, kind of a guy that, I don't know, gets brushed aside, and now he's a big underdog against Bonfim. Bonfim's 2-1 in the UFC. Sadykhov is 2-0-1 in the UFC. both have wins over Terrence McKinney. The last fight for Bonfim 9 months ago, he beat Vince Pichel. I think on his way out of fighting Vince Pichel also. Now he's fighting a prime version of Nazim Sadykhov. I think both guys in their prime. I think Sadykhov can surprise a lot of people. I think he's going to be live throughout the fight. I feel like it's a hard-fought 3-round back and forth, and Sadykhov can edge it on the scorecards. And when things get interesting, would be potentially on the ground. I think Sadykhov has the better grappling skill set. I can't not pick him here. The odds are too juicy for me to not call him a savage dog lock, okay? Plus 180, give me the savage dog lock. We'll jump to the most confident picks in a moment, but I want to look at some of the prop sides, okay? Prop sided. Submission win for Sadykhov, plus 1,000. Does he lock up the sub? It's on the lower likelihood scale because he's only got 2 submission wins, but does have capable jiu-jitsu. Decision makes more sense at plus 325. I think it probably goes all rounds. I'm saying over 2.5, likely, minus 160. Sadykhov on the scorecards. I see a competitive back and forth fight that ends in a relatively close decision. And I think that Sadykhov edges Bonfim 2 rounds to 1 in a good back and forth. Bonfim will have moments striking from distance. Sadykhov will thrive more so in close range. And then if he gets the fight to the floor, I think he's the better grappler between the two. I like the matchup a lot. And at plus 180 odds, I think he's very live. My favorite underdog of the night, we'll call him the Savage Dog Lock. This week's lock, we're going underdog status. We're going Nazim Sadykhov. But now let's talk some most confident picks. We'll talk the confidence locks. I know some people will be like, bro, well, why is your lock not just the most confident pick? Well, my mentality is this is called this week's best MMA bets, not just simply let me lay the chalk on the absolute widest favorite on the card, because you're not going to money line those. You can parlay them, and that's what this section's for. High confidence. We'll bring it all up. We're going to go one by one, and then at the end, I have a special 5th edition. I got a number 5. You think I'm only putting 4 up because I show 4 on the screen? Come on. You guys know the drill by now. If you tune in every week, I always do a 5th one. I just got to make sure you guys aren't screenshotting and bailing. You got to stick around. You got to listen to the articulate analysis. You understand me? First up, Gregory Rodrigues, inside of the distance. This makes so much sense to me. Big size advantage over Jared Cannonier. Interesting that Cannonier is the former heavyweight, but RoboCop looks a lot bigger than him. Cannonier is about to be 41. Potentially during the fight, he'll turn 41. I think that Gregory Rodrigues finishes him. He's got big power in his hands, but also high caliber jiu-jitsu. Now, the lines are wide. You have in the minus 220 range for RoboCop, which is sensible. I'm not surprised to see him as this big of a favorite. Cannonier has taken damage in his last 2 fights. He's been hurt in his last 2 fights. And I think he's kind of lost his stride. And also going through these hard training camps in your 40s is not the same in your mid to late 30s. Whereas Gregory Rodrigues is absolutely primed right now. At 32 years old, I think there's a good chance that he goes out there and has a showcase type performance and actually gets ranked amongst the elites. Like now, Gregory Rodrigues is going to be an interesting player at 85. I like him to win. I like a finish. I think this fight does end inside of the distance at minus 325. If you're looking for a wider line to potentially throw a relatively safe call on, especially in a parlay, I don't think that's a horrible idea, but that's not what the people are here for. They're here for the excitement. A lot of you guys are here for the value, but if you're looking for safety, I think it does end inside of the distance. Also, looking towards the side of RoboCop inside distance down the center, minus 120 for that. I like the chance of that happening. Rodrigues by sub all the way up at plus 550, KO plus 160. If you're thinking about going KO, I think you're better off going inside distance. But if you want to go for the value, you chase the submission call. Ultimately, there is a legit chance that Rodrigues could sub Cannonier. But something to note is even though he has very good jiu-jitsu, he's a guy that likes to use his ground and pound. How many sub losses? None for Cannonier as well. Never been submitted before. Caio Borralho did choose to strike with him for the vast majority of that fight, and he's a good submission artist that didn't even show that, refined skill set of his game in the matchup. I think RoboCop's got the power to do damage. He's got the size to give Cannonier difficulty, especially at the small cage, and he should have a grappling advantage. Though Cannonier, very good takedown defense normally. I have a lot of doubts about him at nearly 41 years of age. So RoboCop to break into the higher tier of UFC middleweights, I think he gets a finish. Next up, Jacqueline Cavalcanti. I think she's winning a decision. Come on, man. Julia Avila, 9-3 pro, but not fighting consistently. When was her last fight? 2023, December. She lost to Misha T. Before that, 2021, June, she beat Julia Stoliarenko. Before that, lost to Sajara Eubanks in September of 2020. She had hype back in June of 2020 after she finished Gina Mazzani, but very inconsistent since then. Not an active fighter. I wouldn't even consider her a full-time fighter. Whereas now her opponent, Jacqueline Cavalcanti, is surging up the ranks and looking to make waves here. I mean, I think Cavalcanti's technicality looks very impressive. She picks her shots well. She's coming off 2 straight wins. Actually, she's coming off 3 straight UFC wins, but in total, she got more than that. But I'm talking about UFC only. 3 straight wins, but 2 of those wins actually against capable strikers. Beat Josiane Nunes by a decision and Nora Cornell. Both tricky strikers for sure. And Julia Avila being past her best days, I think she's going to struggle on the feet. I think Cavalcanti picks her apart. She won't knock her out. Julia Avila is pretty tough, and Cavalcanti doesn't have big power. Don't be shocked if Cavalcanti mixes in grappling. Avila has shown a massive weakness in grappling skills in the past. I like Cavalcanti's chances, but so do the books because she is upwards of -730. You'll be lucky if you find her below -600. If you're finding her in the -500 range, you're essentially getting a value play with this one. Holy hell. The over is -350 as expected with an over 2.5 in a ladies fight. Cavalcanti to win on the judges' scorecards -225. You're not playing that. Cavalcanti by sub is where you make the money. If it's upwards of +1,200, wow, +1,200. No wins recently by sub or ever. 5 decisions, 3 KOs. We know the way Cavalcanti's probably winning. She's going to beat Julia Avila by outstriking her, tying up with her against the cage, using maybe a trip and getting on top. Big youth advantage, 27-36, an inch in height and an inch in reach. And I think simply the activity rate and momentum favoring her so substantially. Like, it's Cavalcanti all day. Let's keep going. Next up, Valter Walker to win. I'm going to pick him over Don'Tale Mayes here. And the reason he's being brought into the most confident picks, not so much for Valter Walker's skill set, but maybe the lack thereof with Don'Tale Mayes. He's a clumsy grappler. He's been submitted before. We saw him heel hooked by Cyril Gane, and Valter Walker is good with the leg entanglements. He also was choked out by Nascimento, and then in a rematch, he lost the decision. I think Valter Walker wins this fight by using his grappling. I'm sure that he's going to land a takedown at some point, probably gets on top. He may just embrace the grind. It may be a snooze fest and a boring 3-round Valter Walker unanimous decision win, but he is a guy that has some craft to his jiu-jitsu, and I could potentially see a submission. Now, I'm not going to recommend that you guys go out chasing that sub call. He's got 2 submission wins. He's more of an embrace the grind, beat you up from top position type of grappler. But, you know, arm triangle would always be live, and Don'Tale Mayes maybe giving his back, getting tired, or even a leg lock could potentially come into play here. But Valter Walker should win using his ground game. I did not like his debut. You did not like his debut. I know. I'm like hearing some of the comments. I'm reading them before they're even released. Almost knocked my hat off here. This is what I'll say. Look at his debut physique. Look at his recent physique. Valter Walker has dialed in training. He's lost about 14, 15 pounds of body fat while putting on muscle. He looks jacked. And I think Valter Walker is going to be very strong. And in the small cage as well, you have to favor a smotherer. And Don'Tale Mayes doesn't really have great power. In the UFC, I mean, Don'Tale Mayes, not really known for the power strikes. He got, a knockout of Arlovsky, but Kyle Machado decision win. Not a heavy-handed guy for the most part. His other finish is a Josh Parisian, elbows from crucifix. Remember when he was like thrusting into his head, kind of like dry humping Parisian's head, and he was actually doing damage. That was a funny fight. But, he took Parisian 3 rounds, and we've seen Parisian handled pretty easily by, lesser foes. I think Valter Walker using grappling should be a pretty quality play. The odds are not bad, right? He's sitting at -235. That isn't terrible for Valter Walker. plus 200 for Mays. Dontel Mays is actually ranked in the top 15 right now, the state of the heavyweight division. The state of the heavyweight division. I mean, that could be a video on its own where I'm ranting about that. Oh my gosh, I hope they signed Vadim Nemkov, but that's completely besides the point. Valter Walker, submission is plus 400. Decision is plus 150. It's sub or decision. Valter Walker, straight down the center, potentially parlay piece. Mays is a relatively slow twitch guy. He's big, but ultimately doesn't have much technicality. Going to be the same height as Valter Walker, so it's not like Walker's like giving up a size advantage really here to Dontel Mays, which Mays normally has. I'm going to say Valter Walker with grappling, with pressure, clinch work, takedowns against the cage, embrace the grind, and unanimous decision or submission win for Valter. Confident call. Jose Delgado's up next. This is a fight to get excited about. If you're not excited for this fight, I don't know. You just don't know Delgado, I would assume. There's really nothing else I can say. If you don't know Jose Delgado, if you didn't watch Contender Series, first thing, if you're not watching Contender Series, I don't know what you're doing as a fan of fighting. Contender Series is lit. And Jose Delgado looked like a monster on Contender Series. His striking is high caliber. He flows with ranges so well. Like, he's a guy that's good not only from long range, right, from the outside, but he's also nasty and close, and he's good in the mid-range. He's good everywhere. His boxing combinations are sweet. His kicking skills are phenomenal. Jose Delgado seems like somebody to watch, man. Training at MMA Lab, too. He's going to have a nice height and reach advantage in this fight and youth advantage on top of it. Connor Matthews, he's kind of an upright, standing tall striker. He likes to switch stances, but he lacks head movement. He lacks power. What is he going to do? He's going to wrestle fuck Jose Delgado? I don't think that's easy. Delgado's got crafty grappling. I think Delgado is going to beat the brakes on Connor Matthews. He probably finishes him. I think Delgado's going to beat his ass. I think Delgado, if the odds, were a little bit better, could be a chalky locky, but no, minus 425. My God. It is a chalky locky because this is what this section's all about. He should definitely win. It's just, there's no money line available. You have to touch a prop or you have to parlay it. Minus 425 for Delgado. I do believe in the KO. Not a great line for the KO, but I'm seeing upwards of plus 200, around plus 175. I like Delgado's chances to chin Connor Matthews. The way Connor stands straight up and he stance switches without much head movement leaves him so vulnerable to shots. I think Delgado's got the striking skill to do some serious damage here. This should be a one-sided ass whooping, and the line should, I don't know, be proven correct. That's what I'll say. I like this guy a lot. Delgado likes to brawl too. I think Matthews is going to get baited into a brawl and flatlined. He's getting chinned. He's getting starched, man. I see Matthews knocked out. So Delgado by KO. Confident call. Now, to bring up the special number 5, you might be thinking to yourself, there's some other guys that I think can be confident picks. And I think, you'll probably assume there's about 3 left maybe. I will say I think that the side of Gabriel Bonfim has a good chance to win against Khaos Williams. Khaos is just not crafty enough. He's got power, but outside of a puncher's chance, not much else. Never been submitted before, but also never fought good grapplers in the UFC, mostly strikers. Yeah, he's got heavy hands, but I don't know. He looks so human against Bedoya that I have my doubts. Bonfim's a solid kickboxer with really nasty submission skills. I think Bonfim can match the striking of Khaos while also simultaneously looking to mix in wrestling. I'm assuming that will give Khaos Williams some difficulty, probably force him to panic a bit. Because now Khaos has to worry about takedowns. And even if Bonfim isn't subbing him, which I do think he could sub him, even if he's unsuccessful with the submission on the mat, mixing in the grappling will open things up on the feet. I don't think Khaos Williams has the speed for Bonfim. I don't think he has the technicality. He doesn't have a jab like to really sting up Bonfim from the outside. That's kind of my biggest gripe with Khaos is, yes, he's heavy-handed, but outside of power shots and wide punches, he does not have much technicality to his style. With a 77-inch reach, it would do him a massive service to develop a crisp jab, but he just simply does not have one. He's going to have a nice reach advantage here, but I don't believe he knows how to use it. Khaos Williams fights like a shorter man. And I think that Bonfim is going to give him a lot of trouble. Probably blitzes him, attacks, looks for takedowns, makes him uncomfortable. He looked more conservative against Angelusa and, showed us an improved gas tank going the full 3 and beating him by a decision at altitude as well in Denver. He got a bad reputation, did Bonfim, after the Dalby fight where he kind of gassed. But I don't know, developing fight type performance. Dalby's underrated. He's in your face the whole time. Bonfim had a lot of success early, but Dalby just has got complete grit. Different level of grit with a Dalby than Khaos Williams as well. Khaos more has the, puncher's chance. I just don't think he has the skill to deal with Bonfim at all. So Bonfim should be a good pick around the minus 200 range. I think he's pulling through. Submission is very live as well. Plus 225 for sub. Now, if he did go out and win a decision, I'm not utterly shocked. Plus 200 for that. But I would just rather Bonfim, money line, little 2-peat parlay. Put 2 pieces down. Boom. Why are you giving yourself headaches, man? Don't stress yourself out. Bonfim straight. Throw him on the line. I like him to win. I think he does win. Now, I know some of you guys might be surprised here. Like, bro, you didn't put Zalal, you didn't put Shahbazyan, or, you didn't put even Estevam. I'll give you quick reasonings. Estevam, layoff is why he's not there, but he'll probably win the fight. Probably a decision too. Shahbazyan, unreliability with his gas tank, but ultimately I think that he finishes the side of Budka. And then Yusuf Zalal, it's great momentum. I like his style a lot. You'll see his name at some point in the show. I have a little parlay maybe with him or a prop maybe with him. But ultimately, you can't do much with the money line. And Calvin Kattar, if he's on, is still super dangerous. And Zalal has not beaten somebody of that caliber just yet. His last, UFC run and wins that he's been on, it looks sensational. But, if Calvin Kattar's on point, he's a bad motherfucker. I don't think he will be, but ultimately, at the lines that we're sitting at, it just didn't call my name. But those obviously are 3 quality picks, and I don't shame anybody for playing those in a parlay or even maybe a money line. Probably not, actually, because way too wide to money line. Probably a parlay. I like it. Those are the most confident picks. Those are the savage calls. Those are the chalky lockies on UFC Vegas 102. I want to jump to the next section. I do want to talk some of my favorite underdogs. Aside from our main event underdog call, I have 2 more underdogs that caught my eye. It's Morales to win by submission because Elijah Smith is completely unproven, has not beaten anybody at a high level. Morales is a good gas tank, and he does have a nasty Darce choke, Peruvian necktie, guillotine, anaconda. Front headlock position is really what I'm saying that Morales has, and it's something to think about. Like, Morales definitely's got a sub chance late. But yes, Elijah Smith is more talented than him. It's just, is he ready for this level at 22 with not a ton of pro experience? Morales' losses that he has are against better fighters. Like, Taylor Lapilus lost, Miles Johns lost, Jonathan Martinez lost, Chris Gutierrez lost. These are relatively calibered bantamweights. Elijah Smith has not fought near that level yet, and I guess I just have my reservations about it until he proves me wrong or right. Either way, we'll see. Petroski is the other one too. Petroski is another dog. Petroski is plus 225. He's a risky dog, though. Because he's on short notice, he's more risky. If he had a full camp, I'd like him more. I have a hedge with that one. If you are considering playing the side of Petroski, I have a little hedge that I'll talk about in the prop section. And actually, with Vince Morales, I just wanted to read off the sub prop sitting now at plus 500. It was upwards of plus 1,000 earlier, but now plus 500. I think he is live, Morales, for a later stage submission. A tired Elijah Smith gets caught in something, maybe in the 2nd or 3rd round. Morales by 2nd round sub plus 1,600, 3rd plus 1,800. But that is degeneracy. That is degeneracy. Okay. Those are, lottery ticket plays, like, just trying to pick the number of the roulette table. That's what we're looking at with something like that. But you do get good bang for your buck if you go for it. But ultimately, if you're looking for the highest likelihood of success, playing things like that ain't it. Those are my favorite dogs, obviously, aside from our, underdog savage lock. Let's keep running. Let's talk about the Degen props. And I actually just want to jump right into the Rodolfo Viera thing that I was saying. I feel like he's live for submission, but ultimately you're not going to get much bang for your buck at plus 160 for a sub, and Petroski is a capable grappler. The reason I would say there's a submission threat here for Viera is not because of the lack of skill from Petroski, but the short notice spot he could fatigue in the later stages of the fight. What if you wanted to do something crazy? Okay? Submission win, Viera round 3, plus 1,000. I don't know. Maybe something to look at. Round 2, less likely, plus 600, less odds too. It's disappointing. But I don't know. I just thought to myself, maybe the later stage sub is a good hedge if you are betting the underdog of Andre Petroski at big plus 225 money. But you can't just go straight sub, unfortunately. Then next up is the Hill and Souza over 2.5. Well, if these ladies don't go over 2.5, I will be relatively shocked. And I think it would be Souza finishing Hill more than the opposite happening. And if Souza does get a finish over Angela Hill, she's now burst into the higher level. Souza to win inside distance is plus 550. That could potentially be a hedge for you if you are looking to put the over 2.5 in some type of play. I don't think it's a horrible idea to hedge it with that, but there's the never hedge mentality that some have, and then there's the option of potentially hedging. I like to give you both sides of the coin. Now, I was going to re-mention Morales by sub, which is obvious. Listen, Gregory Rodrigues in the main, I already talked about this, but I want to emphasize it a second time. I really believe he gets it done inside of the distance. It's not the greatest line ever, but minus 120 for, real chance of a finish. Not a horrible idea. Now, Yusuf Zalal, I'm looking at his money line at minus 500, but I really wanted to just mention another aspect to him. If you wanted to go for Yusuf Zalal, you could potentially touch a sub call. I'm seeing upwards of plus 390. I don't love it though. And Calvin Kattar is not an easy guy to finish. If you look at Calvin Kattar's last fight, he got absolutely dominated on the ground by Aljamain Sterling. He has one submission loss as a pro, and that loss was not in the UFC. It was actually in Elite XC back in 2008. My God, only the OGs remember Elite XC. That's crazy. That's a throwback and a half. Ultimately, Zalal could be tested a bit here and could end up winning a hard-fought decision. That Zalal decision line, something also I feel as though might be worth mentioning, sits, unfortunately, at minus 145. I thought it was plus 145. Wow, my mistake. Minus 145, you ain't playing it. I know you're not. I don't blame you. The odds for that fight, not great. The fight should have closer odds. Minus 210 Yusuf Zalal to plus 180 Calvin Kattar are the real lines, but obviously, the books opened it up around minus 225. People bet it down. I'm sure he's in plenty of parlays. The line should not be that wide. Calvin Kattar, if he still can move even close to what he used to, is dangerous and will at least test Yusuf Zalal. But those right there are some of the, Degen props of the night that called my name, the things I wanted to mention. And actually, there was one more. Estevam to win via decision if he goes out plus 160. That's also something I felt that was worth mentioning. I do think Estevam controls Aguilar in the ground, but going to be hard to submit Aguilar. He's pretty crafty, but I'm not crazy about throwing down and betting an Estevam minus 450 with, a long layoff. But he is probably live to outwork Aguilar and get it done on the cards. There we go. Savage calls. Those are the Degen props. I want to jump to everybody's favorite section. I want to talk parlays. I want to look at some things that I have written down here. And you guys can let me know if you agree. Depends on what you're thinking. Now, Rodrigues and Delgado, a Savage City at minus 117. I like the chances of both of them winning. Obviously, you guys know I'm riding high on Delgado, and I think Rodrigues is kind of a product of good timing for this Jared Cannonier matchup. So I like that. A solid play could be Cavalcanti, Walker, and Bonfim as a little alternate action. I do think those three cash plus 150 for that. I like that you get plus money. It's pretty solid. W City would be the dog, Sadykhov and Rodrigues in the main at plus 307. Now, if you just want a classy little parlay, you got Rodrigues, Delgado, and Bonfim, three solid favorites who are going to put it on the line to win at plus 172. Next up, you got something that just feels right is Sadykhov, Rodrigues, and Delgado at plus 424. I like the odds, and I do like the chance of winning. Sadykhov and Delgado plus 263 for a little value alternate. You see, I got Sadykhov and all the rest, and I know people like, bro, why do you have them in every one? Listen, if you want to remove Sadykhov, I have said on the show before, if you don't love the lock, if you don't want to risk it, you take it out. The other calls are still very valid for your parlays. But if you have Sadykhov in there, you get 6-1 money. If you have Sadykhov, Delgado, Rodrigues, and Bonfim. If you added in Valter Walker, now you have plus 1,008. That's a Degen call. Then you got a Degen Savage call at the bottom if you added in Cavalcanti and the Hill and Souza over 2.5 plus 1,420. If you want the big plus money, you have to do it with Sadykhov. If you're okay with taking less and you just want confidence, absolutely. And it's not that Sadykhov isn't confidence. To be fair, he is confident. So I guess I want to pull back on what I said there. But some people have a slight hesitancy to betting the side of the underdogs, whether it's an anxiety about what could go wrong. I get it. I do get it. I do get it. I don't think that it's stupid to have those feelings. I understand. Now, I will quickly read off what that Degen Savage call is without the side of Sadykhov in it, which, I'm sure somebody is going to be interested in playing. I'm literally getting the lines put together right now. Just with the big three, you already see it plus 172, Rodrigues, Delgado, and Bonfim, the classy call. Now, if you added in Valter Walker there, you have plus 293. And then if you wanted to, keep it running to maybe another level, you're like, listen, I want even more. You put Cavalcanti in, now you got plus 365. And then if you put the Angela Hill over 2.5 rounds, you have you have plus 439. It's upwards of minus 600 for that over. That is crazy to me. Close to plus 500 if you remove Sadykhov. Not the same bang for your buck, but still something that seems relatively likely. I think there's still a pretty, fair chance that it comes to fruition. I don't think you're out of your mind for touching something like that by any sense of the word at all. You got confident picks and a confident over 2.5. I know some people won't like the over 2.5, so plus 365. If you want to try and finagle a little more value out of this plus 365, instead of going Gregory Rodrigues straight, you could try him for the inside distance call, and then you'd have plus 490. So nearing plus 500 with some confident call sweeps. Ultimately, you could even make it more degen if you went inside distance on the side of Rodrigues as opposed to playing it straight. And then you threw in the side of Sadykhov plus 1563. And maybe you're like, well, if I'm going inside distance there, let me also go with Delgado to win inside distance, which seems to have a nice ring to it. Then you got plus 2,551. So confident picks on the card with underdog lock. But instead of just straight playing two of the confident picks, you have Rodrigues inside distance and Delgado inside distance. I like that. And then if you don't like Nazim Sadykhov, you still have plus 840. So to get you some value, this is why you don't screenshot and bail, because I elaborate and articulate on everything you see. So I appreciate the ones that are always sticking through and listening to my analysis. Guys, those are the parlays. That was this week's episode of this week's Best MMA Bets. I loved it. I hope you did too. Thank you guys for watching. I appreciate each and every one of you. Make sure you guys smash the like button. If you're new to the channel, hit subscribe, turn the post notifications on, and put them on all, not just personalized. You don't want to miss a video or a live stream. I got live streams every day, videos every day. Keep it cooking on the channel. I love you all. Let me know in the comments what you thought. Drop your lock, drop your favorite picks, drop some of your favorite bets. I want to hear from you guys. If you have nothing to say in the comments, but you just enjoy my content, W in the chat to boost the algorithm for your boy. Thanks for watching, everybody. I see you all in the next one. Peace out.